thank you all for checking out this week's episode. Once again, I'm John. If you like what you heard and saw today, subscribe to our YouTube channel, find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and check out our brand new merch store with hats, coffee mugs, t-shirts, other cool stuff coming down the pipeline. Again, thank you all for support. Be safe and see you next week.
How's it going, everyone? John here, the host of Spirit Talk, and today we welcome the incredible Harry Turner to the show. Harry is a former British soldier, explorer, wildlife conservationist, and the star of a recent documentary, Wildcat, which is on Amazon Prime. And Harry, it's great to have you on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John. I appreciate it.
And I know before we hit record here, I was telling you I'm a lover of documentaries, especially after the pandemic, where there's only so many TV shows and movies you can watch, and I started going down this rabbit hole of watching documentaries from health and fitness to wildlife conservation, some of which are Ivory Game, Sea of Shadows. My friends at Sea Shepherd put out some awesome stuff there. But when I came across yours, all I saw was going through Amazon Prime was a picture of this kid staring directly into the eyes of a baby ocelot, and I'm kind of like, 10 p.m. at night, I'm gonna watch it, and for the next 2 or so hours, man, I was blown away, humbled. I went from a range of sadness to anger to happiness, and I was like, I gotta reach out to Harry because I'm blown away by this. It's someone that is able to put themselves out there like this. Just incredibly touching, man.
Yeah, thank you. It's a extremely vulnerable film for myself. I feel like, I needed to put myself out there. All I've ever wanted to really do is try and help anything around me, whether that be people who are struggling or whether that be the smallest of ocelots that kind of needs a mother in this situation. And yeah, this documentary definitely touches on some very emotional and upsetting moments, but it also can kind of bring you back to like parts of your life. I've spoken to so many people that have kind of been like, I went into this film not knowing, but then I saw a bit of myself in it. And that can be from, trauma, PTSD, war. That can be from loving animals, from having a relationship with a younger sibling, family situations. There's so many paths that you can walk, down via this film.
And I do want to touch about that. And you kind of bring up something I kind of want to lead into. There's a stigma especially when it comes to males, to ask for help, whether it's mental health, depression, or like, even if I'm lost, I need directions. We don't ask for help, but for you to put yourselves out there like this and make yourself so almost like you put yourself out there as this wounded man, and you come out of it. At least I, as the viewer hearing the story, it's like you became so much bigger than what you are. The fact you're able to put this out there and talk to other people who are going through this stuff, and to crack this stigma that is attached to asking for help. Anyone that's going through issues, whether it's mental or PTSD, you watch this film and it's like, well, if Harry can do it, why can't I?
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like that light at the end of the tunnel, that kind of like it inspires you to go on and do what you want to do. Like when I went to the jungle, I was a broken man. I say man, if you watch it, I was a boy. I was
Yeah.
a kid. I was in Afghanistan when I was 18 years old. Within my first 5 days, I saw someone get shot in the head. And when you're 18 years old and you have that life check, really hard life check, it takes you back. You have to think, you have to be like, what am I actually grateful for? And so after the Op Herrick 16, after my tour, I was so lost. I went to the jungle to kill myself. That's why I went to the jungle. I wanted to get lost. I didn't want my young brother to find his older brother dead. Like that's unfair. Even though I was in such a bad place, I was still thinking of the consequences of my suicide. And when I went to the jungle, I I didn't want to come back. But something about the jungle saved me. It took me about 14 days to realize, right, Harry, like you should be happy. I was sat on the front of the boat and the sun was going down and the bats were changing with the birds. And I was just like, whoa, it was like this epiphany. I was like, this is incredible. And from that point on, I wanted to help. I wanted to, if this jungle can save me, I want to save it. And that came to me in the form of orphaned ocelot. And I knew at that point this was my purpose. This is why I struggled. This is why I'd gone through all of these things. This is why I was put in this position right now. So I could be this mother to this orphaned ocelot, and I could do the best that I possibly could, even though I had no education or university degree in this area. It felt right, and I was the right person at the right time. Like it just it fell in my lap.
When you transfer, you basically were discharged out of the army for, I guess, recurrent depression. But when that process that happens, and they let you know this is what's happening, was there anything like as you look back, and you kind of upset that organization? And I've had a ton of veterans on this show in all different branches that they've had great experiences with the VA and they've had bad experiences. But for you, was there, were you kind of upset when you look back going, man, why didn't they do enough to kind of guide me? Hey, Harry, maybe you should try this or do this, or is it just like, hey, once you're done with us, go to the jungle because we don't care?
I was forwards and backwards with the British Army because they were like, oh, we're going to do this, and you need to go here, and you need to drive, 60 miles to go to this meeting, and you need to come back. And it's like, I am in a bad place.
Yeah.
And then when they discharged me with recurrent depression, I thought to myself, this is wrong. This isn't right. Like, I haven't seen the correct person. I haven't seen the correct people. So I actually paid money to go and see a specialist. And the specialist told me, no, you have PTSD. You have, terrible nightmares. You have terrible thoughts. You're, triggered by huge noises and bangs and loud voices. Like, this is PTSD. And the reason why the military have discharged you with recurrent depression is because they didn't want to pay you to get out of the army with what you would have been paid for the PTSD. They wanted to pay you the smallest amount and just get you out of their lives. And even though the military has taught me a lot about my life, even though the military has put me in some situations where it has humbled me, the military definitely didn't do the British Army didn't do what they should have done to help the people who are meant to be helping their country or serving for their country. It definitely felt like I had been kind of like pushed to the ground. And then when you walk down the street and you see someone with a sign that says, homeless veteran, I know where they have been. I know that they have been struggling and they have been trying to ask for help, but they never got the help that they deserved.
It's so fascinating because when you first appear on the screen, I had this inkling. It's like, this is just someone I'd be friends with. But when you look at him from the outside, you're like, he's just someone who's lost or trying to find his place, or someone who's just misunderstood, really. And I love the fact that there's a sense of awkwardness to when you first meet you on screen, how you're filming in the jungle yourself before the big production company came in. But it's like, and as I step back and do some research on you, I realize this is a kid that experienced war and violence as opposed to going to college or an education. It's like that when people don't understand that, it's like, well, hold on a second. He didn't have this 8-hour school day and then hanging out and drinking beers with his buddies. Like, he's seeing stuff in combat. And not to take away from those people, but the big takeaway for me is like, here's someone like Harry who's just misunderstood. That how many people in this world that do go in the jungle and don't come out. That's what really hit home for me.
And it's a lot. And I look back and I think, when I went to war, I was 18 years old. I joined the military 2 days after my 18th birthday. Now, in the film, my brother is 13 at the time, but now my brother is 16. He's going to be 17 in March. And I just think of him as this kid, this tiny, like, I remember him coming home from the hospital, and now he's only a year away from where I was to go to war. There's no way that he is ready. There is no way that he is physically, mentally fit to go and do what I did, 10 years ago. And to look back on it, it's like, I understand, people, they have their ways. For me, I couldn't go to school. I couldn't do college because I struggle in that environment. I'm much more of a hands-on person. If I had school or an apprenticeship, I would definitely have done the apprenticeship. But I didn't really have them options because I am a little bit different from most people. I am hyper aware and hypersensitive, and I understand animals more than I understand people. But it doesn't make me any more or less than anybody else.
Right.
I just need to have the or I needed back then to be seen for who I am and for what I was. It's just the fact that I made my choices. I went to war, I went to the jungle, and I've achieved all the things that I have achieved just by pushing myself. But some people don't have the support that I have had, and some people don't also have the mentality like I had. And I personally, in the future, want to be helping people like that as well as saving as much jungle as possible.
One of the, and I don't want to give too much away to the documentary because I want everyone to see it first, but when it comes to Khan, the first ocelot you're with, and then there's a scene where it's just heartbreaking, obviously, with the poachers and what happens. But when that type of stuff happens, especially in that environment, you're in the rainforest of Peru where poachers, all this stuff's out there. Did that ever trigger your kind of combat type PTSD experience when you hear those gunshots and you kind of give it an inkling of it when you hear stuff and how frantic you get when it's like, you know, what's out there and there's only so much you can do? Like, how did that experience like kind of like go back and forth there?
I've had to work on my mental health a lot since that day. I obviously don't want to give too much away, like you said, but when that happened, I wasn't in the jungle anymore. I was in Afghanistan. I
Wow.
it took me it took me a few moments to realize where I was. The sound, the smells, the temperature, I had to kind of like put myself back in my body. It was an unexplainable, awful feeling that I had. And obviously from what happens there, that was probably one of the worst days of my life. And you know, there's nothing I can do to change that. There's nothing I can do to go back in time. Um, but what that did is that lit a fire in me, and that made me say no. I can't give up, even though I want to so bad. I can't give up. I got to keep fighting because there's something else that I can do to make this right. I want to make sure, that I can fight for what's mine. And when Keanu came into the mix, it was like, this is it. This is why I've stayed alive. This is why I have fought and fought and fought and struggled and hurt myself and hurt the people around me. This is why I've done this. It's just for this moment here. And it was redemption.
How did you come up with the name Keanu?
Me and my friend Megan, who is also a part of my nonprofit, we were watching The Matrix in the jungle because it was like a hot day, cold, like it was just like we weren't doing anything. I had some films on my hard drive, and Khan obviously begins with K, and I kind of wanted to continue that. I'm not really sure why. I just thought, I wanted it to begin with K. There's not many names that begin with K which aren't really girly or, you know, not suitable for a male Ocelot, which is going to be ferocious. And I was watching The Matrix, and I just thought, Keanu is a great name, like Keanu Reeves, and that's how it became about. Like Keanu came because of Keanu Reeves.
When you first say the name of the ocelot, I revert back to John Wick, a Keanu Reeves movie where he comes out of retirement because his dog is killed by a bunch of hitmen. And I was just kind of like, I wanted to ask you that because I'm like, I didn't know if this was tongue in cheek, but obviously there is a connection to Keanu Reeves.
It was from The Matrix, and only after I got out of the jungle, I actually watched John Wick. No internet, no nothing. I couldn't really do anything. I had like 1999 movies on my hard drive that I was just kind of like looting through. And so I watched that and was like, wow, like it really kind of was meant to be. It fit in very well.
Right. When you first start watching the documentary, and again, not going to give too much away, it's very personal shooting where you holding the camera, interacting with the wildlife and the people and the crew there. But then it kind of gets into a bigger thing. And I know the backstory, the one production company was out there was going to, I think, go after anacondas or film some other animal, but there's no like type of content. They came across you guys. In that moment, when did you realize this thing was becoming something bigger than just you and a camera and the ocelot?
So the reason why this film really came about is because when I was in the jungle, I was filming because I was 21 years old and I was walking the jungles with an ocelot. It was, I don't know anybody else who has
Oh,
done that. And so I wanted to record it not just for me, but for memories for other people. You know, I could show my parents because I had no contact with them at this time. I could show, you know, family members and friends, like, look what I've captured. I'm the only person in the world to capture an ocelot killing a caiman. Like, this is like absolutely incredible stuff. And I was just like filming because I had this passion. Now, obviously, um, moving on from Khan, I wanted to make sure that he was remembered. And for me personally, that was just something that I promised him. And I then was kind of just like working in the jungle a little bit. I was doing my thing. What I knew I had to be there for something, but it hadn't come yet. And Trevor, who I bumped into, he was there filming, photographing for anacondas for a National Geographic article. And he, in 2 months, maybe found two anacondas, and they weren't a great size and they weren't anything. But one of our mutual friends, Paul Rosalie, said, "You will never believe that guy's story," as I was walking past in the hotel. And so after a few times of bumping into him and just kind of saying like hi, you know, I didn't want to speak to anyone. You know, I came into town so I could get food and I can replenish and I could get back out there because that's where I felt the most comfortable. And I showed him some of the footage on my hard drive, and he was like, "Damn, there's some room for a documentary in here. Even though there's not that much footage, we have enough, and we can do some interviews." And then just after we signed the kind of contract for making a short film of Khan, that's when Keanu came into the mix. And so everything filmed with Khan was all me. I filmed absolutely everything. And then when Keanu came into the mix, they gave the cameras, they gave the audio, and then from there on, everything with Keanu was me because I was the only one that was able to interact with Keanu on a day-to-day basis where I could film and I could do all of these things. And then the stuff with my family and everything like that, that obviously goes back to the film crew. And, you know, very, you know, happy to be able to say that I filmed 75% of a documentary.
It's so fascinating. And when you kind of the idea that you go out there to help these animals or to find yourself, and then obviously Khan and Keanu come in your life, but also the impact that it's almost like a weird circle of life between animals and humans where you help them, they give back to you, but they're also helping another animal in their life cycle because you need the ocelots to help them. It's like it's weird, crazy structure you have out there. It's like the one thing I wish about I mean, you could probably keep filming that stuff. I eat that stuff up, but it's like it's so interesting watching not only you and the ocelots interact, but the other animals in the ocelots interact. And it's like it's such a peculiar, it's such an amazing way how you're able to capture that content there.
You know, it's a very kind of like personal way of looking at it. When I was filming him hunting and when I was filming him kind of like messing about with insects and, you know, and capturing moments which nobody has really caught before with, you know, venomous spiders and different
Right.
snakes. Like it's such a personal thing. And for me, I was recording because, you know, there was a documentary, but I was recording because I cared and I loved this and I wanted to remember this. And I think that that's where my filming comes into it, is that because I had the passion and it wasn't forced, you know, like it was so natural. Like I wanted to film anyway, but this was just cool. And I knew that I had like hard drives and space and where I could just film and film and film. I managed to capture some incredible and amazing things, which, you know, I'm super proud of.
Well, it's like none of the shots were perfect. I mean, they were great shots, but I think what this documentary is so powerful is because it was dirty, like you were wet or it's hot out, and you felt like you were in a rain puddle or a forest. Like at least I did watching this documentary, and I just think there's something to that where it's like very guerrilla-esque. I mean, this is the first time I watched a documentary that felt like, well, holy shit, I hear the poachers too, and it's like that tension, and for you to capture that content, that specific stuff, it's amazing, man. It's I think it's one of those things too where outside your conservation, you're going to inspire people who, whether it's animals or cars or whatever it is, this type of art to document your passion in your life in a way that's so unique.
Yeah, not only just to document it, but document the good bits, but also document the bad
Yes.
bits. Like for me personally, it was so hard for me to film myself upset or film myself, in a bad place because no one wants to be seen as sad or depressed or negative, and especially when you're going to be putting it out there for the world, like that for me was really, really hard, and I was very nervous for the release of the film because I didn't know what people were going to think. Oh, this guy's a bitch. Like he's, you know, he
Right.
he's crying about something like this, or why is he doing? You never know, and like when it's yourself, you kind of eat it yourself, like thinking like and worrying like what people are going to think. But at the end of the day, the amount of response that I've got from this film saying, thank you for being so open. Thank you for being so vulnerable. You've made me realize that I need to work on myself. You made me realize, or you've made me want to go to therapy, or you've made me want to, pursue an avenue in conservation or animal, rehabilitation or any sort of animal management. And even though I was vulnerable and it was hard for me to do that, I feel like because of that vulnerability, so many people have been given that kind of like inspiration and that spark that they need to kind of face the fact that they have mental health issues or face the fact that they need to, get up and do something about their life and their life choices. And that I just I want to do public speaking. I want to be a voice for mental health advocacy. I want to be a voice for conservation. My nonprofit, Emerald Arch, we're going to be doing some really cool things with not only just buying and protecting land and everything which is in it, but we want to be taking people who are struggling with PTSD, veterans specifically, to the jungle so that they can do something like I did, where in my first 14 days, I just wanted to die. But after that, I had this new lease on life. I want to give people that opportunity. 22 veterans a day alone in the US commit suicide. And that is not a number that we should be okay with. We shouldn't be okay with anyone committed suicide, but especially veterans who are struggling because of a collapse in their system. If I can help any single person, not just US military, but any military across the world to come to the jungle to live and walk in the footsteps that I once did and to become somewhat happier in themselves, I know that that's what I want to do as well as saving rainforest.
There are two parts of the movie where I got really mad at the situation. It's like the one thing where it's again, I don't want to give away too much, but the self-harm when it comes to the cutting. And I had a friend back in high school, they like you, they've recovered from that. But they would cut themselves, and I always got mad at them because I never understood it. It was easy for me to say, "What are you doing? You're so dumb." Like, dude, you're my friend. Like, what are you doing? It's like, but when you peel back the layers of this documentary, you start seeing why people do something like you might have done in this documentary. And it's the human aspect of that, whereas the first time I'm kind of like, okay, now I get it. It's so easy for me saying I'm never depressed. Like, what's depression? And I said that before the pandemic because I'm very positive and it's glasses half full. It's what do you mean you're depressed? Like, you have a great life. Until you actually live someone else's life, you don't know that.
Right, and that's okay to not really understand, you know. How are you meant to know and how are you meant to feel what someone else is feeling or going through? And I think that the good thing about this film, especially that scene, and there's also a scene where I have to talk to my brother about my scars. Um, it's a hard thing to talk about. It's a hard thing to go through. But at the same time, you probably, most of the people that are going to be listening to this know somebody or have themselves been through a part in their life where they felt depressed and they have felt suicidal or they have self-harmed. Like
Yep.
that, 1 in 4 people struggle with depression. And after the pandemic, it's probably more like 2 in 4 people. Like, you don't have to understand why that person does that. You just have to take a step back and be like, okay, he must be going or they must be going through something. I want to kind of be there for that person.
Yeah.
And I can try and understand if, that is a possibility. Not a lot of people open up about it, but I hope that me showing that side of me will definitely encourage other people to open up to their family and to their friends about their issues that they're dealing with.
No, I thought it was so powerful. And then the other part, you're going through a relationship during the course of this documentary, and there's one part where your partner at the time, she storms off. And at that moment, I'm kind of like, hold on a second. Like, you obviously that she knows more about you and than I do as a viewer. But when I see it, I'm like, hold on a second. Like, we just peel back these layers. He's depressed, PTSD, and all this other stuff. He misses his family, want to go, like all this other stuff. He just lost Khan. Why are you acting this way? But then again, you step back and it's like, here's a kid that you have the horrors of war. You have the loss of the first Ocelot. You have the long distance relationship with your family. Then you have a relationship you're dealing with. It's like, man, there's the whole weight of the world is on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And in that minute, in that time in this documentary, when that happens, I'm just like, man, I literally would have killed for you. Like, I just felt so like angry that for this fleeting moment, let him vent. And again, I don't know enough about the situation because I know it's just a part of your life at that time. But like, I felt like you were left to deal with that yourself, if that makes
It
sense.
was it was unfair, and without going into too much detail, it was extremely toxic. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be a part of that. But, unfortunately, when things come down to it, I was stuck in that situation. It sounds kind of funny in a way because I was like the animal caged. I
Yep.
was unable to escape that situation. And I was trying to uncage the animal and make him as wild as possible. I knew that I had to be there for Keanu. I knew that I had to be there for that animal and that animal's life. And I pushed through and I pushed through the toxicity and I pushed through the violence and the anger and I pushed through my own mental health because I knew that, forget all that in the past, forget it. Like I needed to do this for this one animal. And I did because that's the type of person I am. I I had to do something and I completed it.
And when it comes to so basically your job out there is to get these ocelots ready to go back into the wild and live on themselves because they have no parents. And so towards the end, when Keanu's ready to go, you have this outburst, which is totally understandable. But I guess my question to you is, was there a sense of fear or like, were you scared that your one thing out here that's keeping you alive and focused is ready to graduate to the next step of life and you'll be left alone? Or am I misreading that situation wrong?
No, you're reading that completely 100%. I needed him to go off by himself, but at the same time I was
Right.
petrified. And, I after he leaves, I had no purpose. Like what was going to make me get out of bed every day? What was going to,
Right.
make me do everything I needed to do? And let me tell you, when I came back from the jungle after Keanu, I was in a bad place. I was struggling because not only was I letting go of the thing I love the most in this world, I was also dealing with being in this beautiful place, going from this jungle to this concrete jungle. I went
Yeah.
back to the UK to see my family, and I remember being in a restaurant with my family, with my mum, my dad, brother and sister, my uncle, my auntie, my cousin, my grandma, my granddad. It's like a Christmas meal, and someone drops a plate, and the cutlery just, it just makes this clinking noise on the ground, and I couldn't be there. I had this intense panic attack. I was just like, I don't want to be in this situation whatsoever. I hate the sound of people. I hate the sound of like
Yeah.
cutlery and everything going on. It was just like I went from 0 to 100 and I was just like swarmed by it all. And so the transition was very, very hard. It was difficult. It was stressful. It caused a lot of issues for my mental health. But I found somebody else, my fiance now, Lexi, and she helped me navigate through them situations. She helped me get back up on my feet again, realize that I am worth something. And since her, we've done some incredible things, traveled the world, and started our nonprofit as well, which is going to be doing some great things for the Ecuadorian Amazon. And so, like them moments, they were hard, they were tough, but they put me in a place, once again to push me to do the best I can in my future.
When the documentary crew's not there, they're not filming. Like, what is your like basic day to day outside of obviously either with Khan or Keanu? Like, try to put me in the frame of mind. Like, what are your chores? 'Cause I know obviously I see a lot of stuff you do with a lot of the care for the animals, but for like you personally to uphold like a site like that,
Hmm.
like how do you preserve like the water, electricity? Like, tell me about your day, like a basic day like that.
So in the mornings, I would wake up, I would go down to the river to check the boat. The river rises and falls
Yeah.
very, very quickly, so you need to make sure that the boat is safe. Otherwise, you're not safe. Coming back, I would usually kind of make some food, prepare my camera gear. I had solar energy because a generator just is not good for the environment, for one, and two, it's too noisy to be doing a reintroduction. So I would try if there was any sun. Some days, in the rainforest, it's just cloudy and rainy, so there would be no electricity. I would back up my hard drives. I would clean up my camera equipment. I would charge my batteries. I would get my gear together. I would go out. I would walk for hours and hours, finding all sorts of incredible animals, and sharing moments with these ocelots like no other. And then I would go back. I would wash up a little bit, change out my SD cards, change batteries again, eat some dinner, go out for a night time, and then I wouldn't come back till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know how many kilometers I was walking a day, but maybe close to 12,
Right.
14.
Crazy.
With a cat, you just walk slowly, you sit down, they're nocturnal by, you know, so during the day would be a very slow pace of life. We would go sleep under trees and we would like hang out and watch the monkeys, and he would go chase after something and then come back. And then at nighttime was when it was full on. He would be in stealth mode, his eyes would be wide, and we would just go out hunting, and we would hunt together. If I saw a rodent go into a log, I'd make sure he was on one end of it and I would like go to the other end, and we would like, if I had to catch it, I would. If he had to catch it, he would. We work together as a team. It was an incredible opportunity for me, and I will never forget that.
You mentioned the scene with the caiman when you're learning how to hunt, and obviously if it's too big, it's going to bite Keanu and stuff. But it's for that moment, I'm just kind of like how vicious the circle of life is in a jungle like that, where it's just like if I do that animal, I'd be like, I don't even want to go out here because I don't know what's going to bite me and stuff. And it's like to get something in a creature like Keanu Ray to go back and live into that habitat. I understand now where it's like the fear of you. It's like you can't be out there to be the big brother or the mom or the dad for this animal. Where like if the spider bite or a caiman bites it or something else, or it's just like it's the amount of trust you have with that animal. The animal trusts you to eventually let go. It's just so surreal to me.
The thing is with these animals is that they are, naturally wild, instinctually wild. And so you have to let them do the things which are going to cause them to learn. If you take the stance of what has Harry done in his life, I've done some pretty messed up things,
Yeah.
and I've been in some messed up situations, but it made me who I am today. And you can't wrap these cats in cotton wool, it's not possible. There's danger everywhere. Man, it's a dangerous place. Not just with wild animals and insects and disease and parasites, but you also have humans. And a lot of the times I get asked the question, "Oh, what was the scariest moment in this whole kind of, few years that you lived in the jungle?" And a lot of the time when I was in the
Humans.
jungle, I was alone, and the times I felt the most scared was when I was surrounded by people who I did not know.
It,
And it's true. You can go all over the world, and the scariest thing in this world is
yeah.
humans.
And how perceptive were other people, whether it's illegal loggers or poachers or even good people that are out there doing maybe similar stuff to you? How aware were they of you out in that area, that presence, knowing what you were doing?
There was a local community which was downriver from where I was staying, and they knew that I was there. They knew me as the crazy white guy, and I would come down every now and again to go and have like a fresh Coca-Cola, or just to have a chat with somebody. And when I was there, they would be like, "So how is it? Can you show me photos? Can you show me videos?" And I would show them these, incredible things, and they're like, "How did you do that? Like, wow, that is incredible! Like, thank you for showing me and my kids, and good luck. And if you need anything, we're here." Um, and they knew that I was trying to do something good for the place where they lived. and they knew that I was there. They knew the issue with Khan beforehand. They knew everything. And so it was people knew that I was there, but you can never trust anyone really, like
Right.
people with a community like that, it's not just the people that live in there, people come in and out of there. And people have to make a living, people have to do things to put food on their plates for their families, and sometimes that can be illegal.
Yeah, it was kind of it was cool, but when you talk about the loggers and that one scene where it's they're cutting down these trees and stuff, it's like they have to make ends meet. So that's not poachers at the low level necessarily aren't evil people. They're doing it because they need the money to live and sustain and do the stuff. It's the people that hire them that are the issue. It was kind of a cool way how you were able to kind of, for people that aren't aware of what poaching is, it's so easy to condemn these villagers
Right.
chop down this tree or God forbid shooting an elephant or something. They don't know. It's like what they're doing is that big of a deal. It's like it was kind of a cool way of you kind of showing that.
If the country and the politics of that country helped their people, then we wouldn't be in the
Correct.
predicament that we are around the world. Now, I get upset and angry when people take animals, but I know that what that person is doing is being paid pennies to cut down a tree, which is then going to go to China or the US and be sold for thousands of
Yep.
dollars for hardwood for either a bed or a hardwood floor. They're being paid, hardly anything. So if they cut down a tree and there's a baby toucan or a baby macaw or a baby ocelot, what do you think they're going to do with that? If they can make money from this animal, they're going to try and make money from this animal, because how else are they going to feed their family? There's no sex education. So these kids are 17, 18 years old and they have children. And they've never gone to school. How else are they going to make money?
Right.
And abortion is illegal in the majority of these places. Now, I know this is a topic in the US as well, which is causing a lot of like controversy.
Right.
But in these places where there's no sex education, abortion is illegal, you have zero money, and all you have is the people above you, the people in power who don't give a shit about you. It's very, very simple what they're going to do, and they're going to do anything to put food on their plates for their families.
Right. It's almost like they harbor and create these people to do these actions. It's unfortunate. It's a terrible, terrible thing. The if it ever came to you again, I'm not, and I do want to, before we get off here, I do want to talk about like what you're currently doing, some of the stuff you're working on. But when the process ever, if the situation ever came up again, where hey Harry, it doesn't necessarily have to be Peru, but uh, we have an ocelot or another similar type animal, could you do what you did before, or did part of that life of you leave when Keanu took off the last time?
It's a good question. And, I never want to see an animal in a
Correct.
situation where it's going to be life or death.
Right.
And so if I was in a place in my life where I had 2 years to spare where I could do this again, then I would. Would there be things that I do differently? Yes, there would. Like I've learned from what I have done in my past, and I'm very proud of what I've done, but I'm also continuously learning. And so there would be, an opportunity for me to do that. I love to do it again? Yes, but it was extremely hard for me. And now that I have a beautiful relationship and I have this kind of like vision and this motivation for future projects that I'm, currently working on now, um, who knows? And I'm going to continue filming, and I'm going to continue taking photographs, and I'm going to continue doing all the things I love, because just like this film started because of a passion. Maybe I might do another film in the future because of a passion.
And you kind of hinted at it, but it seems like with your new projects now, the idea of a proper team too around you, where it's like you don't have to put all the burden on yourself, but you have a team around you that can kind of help out and make sure stuff gets handled, and kind of talk about that, the importance of, as you kind of created this new nonprofit, the importance of teamwork as you kind of move into what you're doing now.
Right. So Emerald Arch was started because, me, my fiance, and my friend, we have this passion, we have this drive to do something good for nature, and we didn't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. We didn't want to just buy land in one jungle. We have a US based nonprofit where we can distribute funds where we see fit. If there's a tsunami again and it hits Sri Lanka, if we have the money to go and help the animals and the people there, that's what we're going to do. But for now, what we're looking at is we're looking at buying land in Ecuador. The reason why we've looked at Ecuador is, as you see at the end of the film, I actually go to Ecuador to help with reptile and amphibian conservation through a group called Tropical Herping. And while I was there, I just fell in love with the place. It's just this incredible, beautiful, completely diverse place that is being troubled by oil companies. Oil companies now are trying to get the last drops of oil from the Amazon, and they're destroying and completely just throwing everybody's health, everybody's, they just thrown it to the ground. These local people are just being surrounded by oil and crude oil, and it's causing cancer, and it's causing all these issues and killing off animals. It's like, what we want to do as Emerald Archers, we want to go out there, we want to raise the funds so that we can buy this plot of land that we have in mind. We want to protect the land. We want to help with the local people. We want to build a retreat on there so that people who are struggling with PTSD can come out and they can do their part. And if there are other animals that need to be helped, then we'll have a position in place for people to come out and help. But we will have protocol and we'll have everything that we need in place so that then this can be and go ahead as it should do.
You had mentioned kind of before the idea of if these actual governments and agencies actually did their job. When you reach out to the people like Ecuador, these other groups, these government entities, how perceptive of you to be like, oh, holy shit, like this guy really wants to make a difference, and I wish we had more Harrys? Or are they kind of like, because their hands in the oil or their hands in the, like, how hard is it for you to kind of get through there? And if people that don't listen to this podcast or see the documentary or other work you do, how do they find out about a group like yours that, hey, I'm a farmer in Ecuador, I'm in my will, I want to give 100 acres to this group? Like, how do people reach out and find you guys?
Yeah, so reaching out to find us will be pretty easy. You can find us on www.emeraldarch.org. But going back to speaking to the higher up people and the political people, it's a hard thing. They have their hands in many pockets. They will be doing, what they can to benefit specific parts of their country. But one of my great friends in Ecuador is actually friends with the Minister of Environment. And so we have a good connection and a good friendship with people in power who want to do good for their country. It's just working. It's taking them baby steps. It's making friendships. It's you can't rush into it. You can't just go and bribe your way in or go and do what you want to do. You have to go the long way round, and you have to take your time, and you have to be careful of what you say and careful of what you do. But we have a good kind of footholding with these people. We want to do the best that we can, and it improves and helps their government and their land, and at the end of the day, if they want to reach out and they want to get in touch with us, we'll be more than happy to talk to them about these decisions. We're not the only people who are trying to do stuff in Ecuador. There's many, many other organizations which, have the same kind of vision of protecting rainforest and, choking rainforest, which is, being deforested at such a rate. And, you have the oil companies which are destroying parts of the Amazon. And you also have illegal logging and, everything that's going on. But there's always hope. And if you look at this film as well, you see that there is hope. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. And there are other people like me who want to do good. And, I just hope that this film can touch as many people as possible, and it can change as many minds as possible, whether it be struggling with depression and working on it yourself, or whether it be actually helping out conservational groups like Emerald Arch, or, making your own and starting your own and doing what you feel is best. And if you find a loophole and you can do something good, don't just think about it, do some actions.
Well, it's the idea of how you go in there for one thing, and what the forest gets back to you. It's just like, it's such a unique, it's like such a cool relationship that I think more people need to be. If we were all grounded in with nature more than we are today, I think we'd all be better off. It's really cool to see that happen in real time when it comes to the Wildcat documentary.
I agree. And I think that if you take mental health and you take conservation and you combine the two, it's going to reach a wider audience. And if people, and people who do struggle with mental health, after you've gone on a walk or after you've spent some time away on holiday, you naturally feel, healthier. You feel better in yourself. If we can protect the land which is being destroyed and we can bring people or we can, help people with depression, you're killing two birds with one stone there.
No, it's great. It's like, I guess I had another question. When it comes to animals, and say a baby ocelot watches their parent get killed by a poacher, or here's a gunshot. Has there been studies done PTSD for said animals that are affected by the violence and what they see, or has that really been dug into yet? Because I'm sure, and I know animals suffer from PTSD. I know combat dogs, EOD dogs that come back that or act differently because of the stuff they've seen, or God forbid their handler passed away. Like it's such an interesting topic.
Many mammals are very, very aware of what's going on. If you see an elephant, elephants are extremely intelligent. And if you see, an elephant who has been around an elephant which has been killed by poachers, you know that it's stressed. You know that it will bang its head. You know that it will knock down as many trees as it can. And that goes for almost every other mammal. They're very, very intelligent, and a lot of people don't give them the credit they need. When I was actually working with Keanu, I helped an orphaned howler monkey. His mum was shot with him on his back, and the mum fell to the ground, and he had a shot wound through his shoulder. And I managed to patch him up but he struggled. He was a very, very depressed animal. Um, and you know, it's not fair. It's not fair what we put these animals through for
Yeah.
our greed, and that's it. Honestly, it's greed.
And
That's what.
I'm very outspoken when it comes to zoos. And as a kid, I would go to the zoo and aquariums because that's the only time I could physically, with my own eyes, outside of an encyclopedia, see what these penguins or lions and rhinos do. But as I got older, I'm kind of like the idea that you want to go there. If people spend half the money they spend going to aquariums and buying balloons of SeaWorld shit, that money could go to an organization like yours or other organizations that are pro animal, and you have such a bigger impact than putting a penny in a machine and spending another 50 cents to get some lion engraved on it. It's just such a weird, especially now as I'm just so outspoken about it. It's like if I'm gonna go see an animal, I'm gonna do what you did, where hey, I'm out there in the wild. I'm by myself. You want to see a snake or a lion? Come get me. But
Oh,
hiding behind
absolutely.
glass and cages, it's so infuriating.
It is, and I think that we're so detached from nature these days that it feels safer and it feels more
Right.
convenient for us to look at these animals via a thicker glass. And fear is a huge thing. I think a lot of people are very fearful. Stories going back to like the Bible, for example, it talks about how snakes are bad and dangerous, and all these things and serpents, and at the end of the day,
I hate snakes.
that well, there we go. But why do you hate snakes, and are they dangerous to you, or but the thing is, it's just because it's ingrained in us to not like these things from such a young age. But if we didn't have snakes, we'd have an overpopulation in rodents, then we'd have too many
Well, that's
diseases, and then it's all the circle of life.
I'm afraid of something that's clearly afraid of me. It is reacting in a way how where I step back and that thing lunges forward. That's both our ways of dealing with our own fear. And it's like, people obviously know me. Know I can touch like the big snakes if they're in the grass or I don't know they're there, and I hate it. But as I've gotten older again, I've kind of realized fear is just fear. If you could meet in the middle somewhere, the fear will go away. And obviously, I can't
Absolutely.
talk to a snake per se, but if I could somehow meet in the middle there and be like, "Hey, man, this is why I do this. Why I do this." Okay, we got it. I think I'd be over my fear of snakes.
Yeah, it's a respect thing. If you're walking and you see a snake, if you don't approach it and if you just walk around it, that snake's going to go the opposite way from you. It's that respect that us as humans have kind of lost to every single animal, and to be honest, we're starting to lose respect for each other as well.
Well,
It's
we're all animals. It's like we don't even.
yeah.
Well, you mentioned it. We don't. We'll pay to see animals in the zoo. We'll walk by a homeless veteran, or we'll even let a veteran live on the streets, which a whole other discussion. But it's again, man. I'm just so happy I fell upon this documentary Wildcat, and the fact you're able to put yourself out there like that. Like I'll do as much as I can on my end to help push this, and the way you're saving lives by being who you are. It's a testament to you, man, and bravo.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And so obviously, people want to reach out to you. They can reach out to your organization. I know you're on Instagram yourself, but just awesome again, man. And I just can't thank you enough for being you.
Thank you. Yeah, and if anyone does want to reach out, you can reach out via my Instagram, which is Harry__Turner, or Emerald_Arch, or you can go to our website, www.emeraldarch.org.
Awesome. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
Oh, hello. I'm just enjoying this nice fucking candle. Anyways, I'm John, the host of Spirit Talk, and I want to talk to you about nice fucking candles. We are lucky to have Nice Fucking Candles as a sponsor of the podcast, and if you use code SPIRITTALK15, you get 15% off your first order, or use the affiliate link below to always get your candle needs through Nice Fucking Candles. Nice Fucking Candles are 100% soy wax. They have a 65-hour burn time, maybe more if you nurse the flame a little bit. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not an expert on flames or candles, but I will say these things burn a long fucking time. You ask me about the wick, it's a double wick for even burning, which is amazing, and they come in 3 incredible flavors. I'm not sure if you're going to be eating these candles, but if you do like them, the scents are eucalyptus and ginseng, tobacco and fireside, and seaside and driftwood. Once again, Nice Fucking Candles. They are the candle company for Spirit Talk. And if you love candles and need a good scent to clear out your office, your room, your podcast room, your weight room, your whatever you're doing in a room that smells like crap, use this candle. It's amazing. Thank you. Check them out. Love Nice Fucking Candles.